Today I'm going to show you how to use the Wancle Sous Vide stick. I'm going to sprinkle them liberally with salt, nothing else but salt on one or both sides, depending on how much seasoning you like. You can always add more seasoning, different seasonings, more salt, pepper, garlic, when we do the sear off after the steak is cooked. I have even in the past had good success using this technique and vacuum sealing the meat, putting it in the freezer salted. I've tried it both salted and unsalted going into the freezer, and I have to say the salted version was much better. Okay, these are Ziploc freezer bags, which I highly recommend using freezer bags for sous vide rather than sandwich bags in any case. And these are quart size. If you have a vacuum sealer, whether it's a manual one with a pump or an electric one, of course that works great. But I'll show you how we can use the vacuum seal bags with the sous vide. You kind of just do a natural seal and it works out just fine. And then I have a pot of water. So the first thing that I'm going to need to do, now that my meat's salted, I'm going to put that in the refrigerator to cure for a little bit. I'm going to put the sous vide stick into the water. So here you can see the water level. I probably could do for a little bit more water in here, but remember I'm also going to be putting the meat in, which will raise the water level. But you want it, there are a minimum and maximum level. Definitely needs to be over the holes, but no higher than this max level. So with the unit plugged in, we have the temperature, the current temperature that it's reading up at the top, and the time down at the bottom. So to adjust the temperature, the target temperature, there's a little wheel here on the right-hand side, and you can see the bottom numbers going up. So this is the target temperature that I'm going towards. And we're going to say let's do it 163. I like it somewhere in between that well and not quite all the way well done. And then when you set that, then you have an opportunity to set the time. And again, I'm going to put it on for 2 hours, and then I'm just going to press the start button. This is telling me my current temperature, and this is my goal temperature. And the water starts to circulate, and you can hear a little whirring sound. And it will start to heat up. So because it's in a metal pan, this is going to get hot. So I do have it on a hot pad. I don't have it right on my countertop. While the water's coming up to temperature, I'm going to go ahead and start bagging the meat. So I take one of the freezer bags and fold over the top to try to keep that nice and clean. So what I want to do is take one of the pieces of meat, enough to fill the bag. You don't want to overstuff it. And just lay that down in there. And I've had good success in actually just layering, making a single layer and filling up the bag as much as I can. Again, you don't want to overstuff, but I think I should be able to get a fair amount of this into one bag. Sometimes it takes a little manipulation to lock the pieces in, kind of like meat Tetris. Get the optimal layering in there. Good. And yeah, I think I'm going to try to squeeze that last piece in. We'll see. Worst comes to worst, I'll pull it back out. Yep, that fits So I'm going to give it a temporary seal for right now, so I can just put it in the fridge while the water's coming up to temperature. But then we're going to actually seal it so we can get as much air out as possible once the water is heated up. So just before the sous vide, the water reaches temperature, you'll hear 3 long beeps. Beep, beep, beep. And then when it does reach temperature, you'll get 3 short beeps. And then the timer will start counting down. So right now you can see it's very hot. We have steam coming up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the meat and I'm going to slowly put it into the hot water. And what this is going to do is it's going to push the air up out of the bag. So the only problem with this method is this water is really, really hot. And in order to get the least amount of air left in your bag, you've got to get this bag pretty close to the water. So it's another reason I like these freezer bags, is there's a little bit of a buffer between there. And then when I think I might have it, I let it go. And yep, if it's not floating up to the top, that's a good enough seal. You can clothespin it if you like to the side, but I'm not going to worry about that. It's standing up really nicely here. I'm going to do that with the next bag. So I just try to hold it up as I'm easing it into the water, and when I think I've got enough of it, I'll go for it and slide it up. The main thing is you just don't want to get any water in that seal. I want that seal to be tight. I'm looking, yep, and that looks good as well. I mean, you're looking to see that the, everything in your bag needs to be submerged under the water level. That's the most important thing. You don't want that to float. The contents of the bag need to be under the water. If you don't feel like it's doing it, you can push the contents down and try to reseal. But these look pretty good. In the beginning, when I was first trying to learn how to do this, I do everything from sticking a spoon in here or whatever, but I've since gotten much better at it. So one last thing that I like to do, it's totally optional, is to add, I have these little plastic balls, and I read on a sous vide discussion comment board or something that some people use these to help kind of seal in the heat. And yeah, I have to say I think they work pretty well. Gives me more confidence that the contents of my bag are actually in the water. So I do like to kind of get the bag below the balls. Might need a little spoon here to help me do that. That is hot, hot, hot to do. There we go. Put the rest of the balls in here, on there. Make a nice thick layer. And already you can see there's a lot less steam escaping from the pan. It's not enough to weight the water out, even though it pulled it maybe a little bit, but they're really just floating on the top. So yeah, I recommend this if you're going to use a pot without a lid. They do sell sous vides that have a built-in vessel and a lid, specifically made for the various sticks. I didn't see one for this particular sous vide stick, so I didn't get one. But I do have this other vessel that I use that I got off Amazon that I will show you here. It's called Sous Vide, and it's just really basically a plastic Rubbermaid tub. Comes with a lid, and if you are handy, you could certainly, I imagine, cut a hole, and then you could use the lid instead of the balls. But what I like about it is it came with this this insulated wrapper for it. It doesn't fit perfectly. It said it did, but it doesn't. But it does the job, and it eliminates the need for a hot pad. I can put this right on the counter just as is. And it's a convenient way if you want to, if you're doing several sous vides, over a few days, you can take the balls out and cover it back up with the lid, save the water, reuse that for another sous vide session. So I do recommend this, and I'll give this to you as well as the stick. And we'll come back in a couple hours when the sous videing is done. Okay, it's done. We're done, and the first thing we're going to do is unplug the sous vide. There is no on-off switch, but you can unplug it. And we'll take that out. If you're not there when it goes off, it's not a big worry, though there's going to be a lot of retained heat. Then what I do is I get a big bowl and I scoop off all of the plastic balls.
Plastic balls.
Using, a slotted spoon or other utensil of your choice. At least to get enough until you can get in to get out your sous vide goodness. Then when I can see a bag, I take it and put that in a bowl. It's gonna have some drippage.
What do you cook?
I cooked steak tips and steak pieces. If you were going to do chicken breast, you do it to 165. Salmon is less, but I don't have that number right off the top of my head. I watch a YouTube channel called Sous Vide Everything. His times and temperatures have never failed me, and he's interesting to watch, so I'd recommend him. So you might be able to see how much juice is left in here, and that's a good thing. I'm going to save all that. That's deliciousness. And again, it doesn't look appetizing when it first comes out of the sous vide, but you sear it and it'll look a lot better. But it's definitely ready to eat. Nice doneness, well done. Well done, but not dry, which is the key. Probably could have used a little bit more salt, but you can get that on this here. So I'm just going to take these out, wrap them up, put them in the fridge, save the juice for a soup, which I do with my tofu noodles, and we'll call it dinner. So that was how you use the sous vide. So if your meat looks like this, or whatever you're cooking, especially beef, if it doesn't look good, don't worry about it. What you're going to do is pat it dry, put it in a hot pan with some butter or oil, and again, you can season it more at that point, make a sauce out of the juice, and there is a lot of juice left over. I'll show you. This was from the steak, and the other one, well, let me show you. This one's from the steak, and this one's from the tips. And so, yeah, don't worry about it. It doesn't look right now because it doesn't have a sear on it, but once you put a sear on it, it'll look delicious.